Right, well, we're at 5:30 and we're at quorum, so let's get started. So we have two new commissioners tonight. Welcome. We'll do introductions kind of later in the meeting, sure. So we can get started with the business for everyone else. But we start with roll call, and we just have you just say your name into the microphone so that the minute taker can kind of hear your name and kind of hear your voice as they take minutes later. So with that, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind just saying your name.
Kevin Larson.
Christina Willou Reynolds.
Noah Stork.
Kevin Boyd.
Frank Wagner.
Nicole Villanueva.
Carl Brown.
All right, that is item A and B. Item C is public discussion of anything not on the agenda. I don't know if anyone here it looks like maybe something on the agenda later. All right, that leads to item D, section 106 review. This is I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, that's fine. So Section 106 reviews are something that don't come up very often for our community. In some other communities, that's all they really have to review. Basically what it is Section 106 of the 1966 Preservation Act basically says that if a government agency is using federal funds for a project, they need to not hurt a historic resource or a historic property. And it kind of depends on the project and whether or not there's an agreement about that type of project, whether or not, depending on that, determines how much we have to look into it. Community development planners get into this a lot because they use housing and urban development funds, HUD funds, and all of those properties need to be reviewed to make sure that they're not going to adversely affect the historic character of something that could be listed on the National Register. The project that we have that came before us now is actually an FCC project, so Federal Communications Commission, and so it involves usually cellular equipment or something like that, and there's a nationwide agreement about this type of work. And the agency needs to determine where their project is going to be, and then they need to kind of determine what is the area of potential effects. And that means, like, directly it could affect the building because you hurt the building or you remove something in order to install your equipment. Visually, it could impact a historic district if it's just a super unsightly, really egregious change to the setting of the area. So they have to determine how big that is, and with the FCC agreement, there's very specific distances that they use. They were written into the agreement. The next thing they have to do is look and see if there are any properties that have already been determined to be eligible for the National Register. And the project that we have today is on City High School. And City High School has been determined to be eligible for the National Register. And we have had a lot of projects come through over time because everybody wants to put antennas on the cupola. In fact, a long time ago, before I was here, there was a project and they were actually going to remove the cupola and do all sorts of kinds of things. But part of this group's discussion of the project, and then part of the State Historic Preservation Office's discussion of the project, led to that project not proceeding that way, obviously, because we still have the cupola, but because of the fact that that had been determined to be a National Register eligible project or building, and the project would have hurt it. So I want to say that staff does not find any concerns with this project, but we are going to present it to you like we would normally anyway, partly because that is the role and what we do with these, but also so that we can learn from it.
Jessica, I'll just also say, this is maybe I've been on the commission for maybe 6-7 years, and this is the second, maybe third one of these. This is not a normal occurrence for us, so it's new for many of us and a refresher for a lot of us. So
yeah,
just helping, we got some new folks just trying to help
yes.
understand where this is we're all kind of new to this particular thing. So
We've had, for instance, there was one putting equipment on top of the bank on the corner of Washington and Clinton Street downtown. There was another one that was installing something on all of the little light poles along the old Capitol along Clinton Street. So we've had some of those kinds of projects as well. So I gave you the entire digital packet of what they send. And basically, they reach out to us to see if we want to comment on the project. We can become basically someone that they have to consult, and I would recommend, and what I wrote into the recommendation was that I recommend that we do tell them that we would want to be a consulting party on this project because it is at City Hall. So they include a site aerial photo here. You can see this is the main portion right in here of City High. And this is where they will put their equipment, and this is where the cupola is. They include maps and drawings of the work. So mostly what they're going to do with the new work here is listed in all of the blue type. You know, there's a proposed antenna, another proposed antenna, 3 proposed antennas, expanding this barrier, whatever this barrier is, in red. And so they have a drawing that lists what the work will be. Then they go into some enlarged drawings. This is an existing roof plan, and they're telling you with this outline here that they're going to show you that enlarged area on another drawing. It would be on C 1.2. Here's the same plan, but now this is the proposed plan. So all of the new blue things, this is a penthouse on top of the building, and they are going to mount little antennas to the outside of that penthouse. Typically in this type of project, things mounted to the penthouse are the best way to do it. So that would be not a concern. Here's a further enlargement. This is that C 1.2, and it basically shows what the existing equipment is. There are some labels because they actually plan to remove some of this equipment. They're going to remove these 2. There's an antenna here they're going to remove, stuff like that. And then this is the proposed equipment plan. So we have a few new pieces of equipment and some antennas, and all of these are called out. Everything is mounted to this area that is adjacent to the penthouse on the roof. Here's an elevation or a side view of everything. This is their proposed equipment all in blue, so you can tell that things like this railing exist, but this is all put on a platform that's held above the roof. Further reason not to be concerned because it's not actually mounted to the roof itself. This is kind of a section elevation. This is an elevation. All of this shows the exterior brick wall, but then here we have a cut through of probably a portion of the building that comes at us or something. And it's showing also the existing, some of the equipment to be removed as well. This is then that same area showing the proposed equipment. You know, it's all cellular equipment. And then they go through, they show you all of the drawings of the equipment, but then they also provide a historic resources report. And this is where they talk about things like that area of potential effect. Now, they have decided that their area of potential effect is 1,000 feet. In a tower this tall, part of the FCC agreement is that the area of potential effect is a half mile. So they've decided that since everything is pretty short and there's a lot of trees and residential buildings, that they only need to use this reduced area, which is, it might be fine, but at the same time, I think it's better to look at what the agreement calls for, which is the half mile. This is a screenshot from a site that is very useful. It's through the Office of the State Archaeologist. It's called iSites. Every dot is a property that has a site inventory form on file at the State Historic Preservation Office. And then things like our historic districts are these yellow areas. So a half mile from City High, we actually get a little bit into the Longfellow area, just so you're aware of that. What we really are interested in looking at that point is whether or not this antenna equipment would impact, I guess, the visual characteristics of that historic district. And really, their 1,000-foot area is probably fine because you won't be able to see this equipment clearly. This is from First Avenue sidewalk. I mean, it's through Google Maps, but you can see the cupola, and maybe this stuff here is some of that existing equipment. I don't know. It's very hard to see. It's always going to be kind of a light color, so it blends away against the blue sky and clouds. And if I go down to Court Street in Muscatine, where our historic districts are, there's no way you're going to be able to see City High from that point. So based on that, the recommendation would be that, yes, we want to be consulted. What if they change it and it's somehow different in a way that is unexpected? But ultimately, this project would have no adverse effect to City High because of the nature of the installation and the fact that it's not going to impact the visual setting of any property that's listed in the National Register. And so you can certainly ask me questions. I can explain anything else, but I do have a recommended motion. I wrote that in the memo, but I'm sorry, I forgot to make a slide about it. So when we get to that, if anyone wants to read the recommended motion, I can just pass this on down.
Sounds good. So the normal order of events, just as a reminder for you guys and everybody else, when Jessica presents something, we often just kind of ask clarifying questions first, things we just maybe didn't understand. We kind of then let the public speak if they have anything to say, and then we normally have put a motion on the table so that we can discuss among ourselves. So I don't know if we need to do that though for this particular project, but I may, before we get into our discussion, see if there's any members of the public that I don't know if we do or don't. It does not look like it. Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure we got that done before we started our conversation. So we can ask questions and have a conversation. We don't need the motion on the floor, this particular.
Right, no, and these probably aren't as formal as some of the other things that
Yep.
we do, because, we're just asked to comment on this. I put a motion because it's on the agenda, and so that's the best way to
Okay.
handle it. But generally, if you have comments and want to say something, now is when
Yep.
you would bring them up, and we'd include that.
Okay. So any questions or comments or anything, I think now is the.
Can you go back to that slide with the elevation view? I'd just like to see,
This one?
maybe one more back. Yeah.
And I have the whole drawing set if you want to know what something is.
And the blue is all proposed new.
Yes, all of this is proposed new. These are panel antenna mounted to existing brackets. There's a relocated support pipe back in here. A radio on a relocated support pipe. Maybe this is the pipe. Some cabinets. These are the two cabinets, etc.
Jessica, when you say we'll be consulted, that just means if there's if there's changes of some kind, they'll just keep you posted.
Yep.
And then if you think there's something that we need to know, you'll let us know.
Yeah,
That's
they
essentially
would
what that
just
means.
reach out,
Yep.
definitely.
Okay.
And, it's the kind of thing, if there was a project and there was something like, oh, this is fine, but if they wanted to do this, that would be problematic.
Right.
Then letting me know that, I can communicate those things to them if they come up.
Great.
And Jessica, this is placed on I'm trying to remember where it's at, on the newer edition at City High. Isn't it like the 1980s edition, isn't it? Is there that
no.
one picture of City High again?
Since the cupola is right here, it's right.
It's right in the middle then, so
Right
it's
in the
on the
middle.
original part of the building.
Yeah, I think that after the cupola issue project, they moved all the equipment here behind the penthouse.
Okay.
I don't know if we need more discussion or if we're ready for the motion. I don't want to rush people, but I don't want us to like sit around either, so. How would you feel about making the motion since you've got it?
Right here in front of me.
That'd be great.
All right. Carl Brown, recommended motion. I move to respond to the request for comment on the T-Mobile project at 1900 Morningside Drive as follows. The Iowa City Historic Preservation Commission requests to be considered a consulting party on the project. The commission further requests the 5-mile APE prescribed by the programmatic agreement, and that the commission agrees with the determination that the project will have no adverse effect on historic resources.
And that's a half mile. If I wrote it wrong, I meant.
Wait, did I say 5 mile?
Yeah.
I meant 0.5 mile,
Oh, okay.
AKA half mile.
Good.
Yes.
And do we have
Did we read it?
no.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Wagner, second.
All right, now we can discuss if we need to, otherwise we'll just vote, and when we vote, we'll just say, I'll say aye, and you say aye, or if you say no, then say no. So that's what's gonna happen. Just for our new people, this is like the most nerve-wracking part for me, my first meeting. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. See, we got that done. First vote out of the way, guys. All right. The next item on the agenda is item E. These are a report on certificates issued by staff, our chair and staff. Just for our new people, and just a reminder in general, many things that we review over and over again, we have shifted the burden from having the commission vote on it to just having staff or staff and chair review it to help move projects along a little faster. At each of these meetings, we get presented on what happens since the last meeting. And so if there's concerns about anything that Jessica and I signed off on, or Jessica signed off on, now's the time to share it and just to see what we've approved. So that's why we do this part of the meeting.
Yeah, if you do have questions, you can ask them too. The first ones will be certificate of no material effect. These are reviewed by both staff and chair. We had the house 1024 Woodlawn Avenue here. There was some deteriorated wood, failing brick foundation, some siding. There's also a flat roof here and on the back that the roof membrane will be replaced. 1118 East Court Street, the concrete stairs will be replaced, not the sidewalls. 619 Northland Street, this is a key property, and at one point in time, the railing around the porch was missing, but we knew from a historic photograph that it exists. So it was rebuilt, and rebuilt in a way that has caused it to deteriorate really quickly. And the owner got a absolutely superbly excellent kind of document about what was wrong and how it would be fixed from the contractor. I haven't seen something that in-depth and researched from an individual contractor in a very long time. It was amazing.
Curious, do you know the name of the contractor?
I do, but maybe I shouldn't say that right now. I don't know.
I see.
Just,
You could, Carl, if you want to see the report, you could just ask Jessica.
Oh,
for it. It's
yeah.
really helpful. She forwarded it to me, and it was just, I thought it was really good also, so.
I just don't know.
Could I see the report?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
It was submitted as part of the application, so it's all public information. I just don't know that I should really say it, in the minutes, so. Then we have minor reviews. Minor reviews are projects where the commission has decided that if it meets certain conditions, that staff can approve it on their own. This one was actually complicated, so I have 2 slides. The house looked like this, and it was for sale, and the new or potential, I don't know what they were, owners called, and we talked about all of the process to turn this house into something better. I started researching it because we needed to remove the asbestos siding and make all of the additions fit in. Well, they just decided to move forward and not get any approvals or work with us in any way. And so they were reported for work without a permit, and we went back and talked to them about things. Now, some of this is, for instance, this window here is an odd size. It should be the same kind of shape as this one. It's been replaced. Once they removed the asbestos, we could see actually the original size of that window there. If they had worked with us, we would have been having conversations like, okay, do you plan to keep these windows? Then let's alter the trim to fit them. Do you plan to someday replace them with something that matches the others? Then let's figure out how to do the siding and trim now in a way that makes that easily feasible. And this, we just didn't do it because of the way the process went through. We had some other things. I found a photo from the 80s that showed what it was like before this addition. They showed me the photos from when they removed the asbestos, and there were certain things like there would be a drip mold that went in this slot right here, and they instead just put a piece of trim board over it, a flat piece. And so there are certain things that they did that we have written into the approval that they will be altered. I'm not sure exactly when. But it was just, it could have been a simple project that became much more complicated because of how it was done. 814 Church Street just got a simple little deck set in from the side walls of the house because it's aligned to the bump out on the back of the house. 529 Brown Street, this is an interesting case. It was a rental for a long time. It's a National Register landmark. All of these amazing doors are salvaged from other properties, and none of them actually fit the openings properly. And so the front door was changed. They went with a simple door instead of a salvage door, but it actually, this is not a door from the era of the house. It's also extra thin. It's like only an inch thick or something like that too. So there are some other doors that'll eventually need to be changed as well. 530 Governor Street, South Governor Street. This is the house, and they are also just getting a simple little deck here. It'll be set in from this corner and line up. Actually, it extends past this corner, if I remember right, but not out past the side of the house. 728 and 730 Brown Street. I've been working with the owner a little bit for updates to some of these doors and windows. The current project that only needed review because it was a change to some degree. They are changing the sliding doors here to French doors, and there's 4 sets of them. 324 Fairchild Street is a house that the commission reviewed a big addition for it last year or in the fall or something like that. And they were always planning on putting a deck on the back, but they never submitted an application for it. So they too are just getting a flat, just level deck. It'll have a step down. They did have a wood stoop at this door as part of their addition, and they wanted to change it to concrete. Since it's just one step up, we approved that. 845 Maggard Street. This is in a conservation district. This was done without a permit like this, and there are some other issues, but the main thing is that another contractor came in. He will fix the structural issues, and the railing will follow our guidelines. This does not follow our guidelines. This is kind of like a modern deck railing. It'll have posts, it'll have a top and bottom rail and spindles in the right configuration. And then we had an intermediate review or 2. And these are reviewed by chair and staff. This one is an intermediate review because it is a property in a conservation district, and it was not a huge change they were making. The house had been duplexed, so it had a first floor entry and a second floor entry off the side, and now it's a single family home. And so they are removing this door and this step and putting a window in there, and the window will match the other windows in the house, which it would have had a window at the stair there anyway originally. The other thing they're doing is replacing these steps to this. The front porch, I believe, is only partially enclosed. Like this part was the open part and this part was enclosed originally. But these steps they're replacing, for some reason, they're going to have them angle out. This was another work without a permit that was found this last month. The Design Ranch building, the historic part of the building is this house back here. And it was actually relocated to this location for the construction of Horace Mann Elementary. And then the owner built a little storefront like here and added on to it and other things. The parapet wall has been leaking for a long time. There's kind of like a little deck that goes up so you can kind of get to this roof. And so they removed the parapet wall. Once we started talking with them, we worked out a way to, we're not rebuilding a front porch because this area will always be enclosed. It's part of the business now. But we were making it look more like it was a porch that had been enclosed. So it'll have a little tiny hip roof. This odd lower door will kind of sort of have the appearance of porch columns on either side, basically to get rid of this T111, parapet wall that we have there and be able to see the front of the house again.
What's T111?
It's plywood siding with grooves cut in it.
Woodpeckers like.
It was used a lot in the 70s and 80s.
All right, the next item is the consideration of minutes from our June 9th meeting. I don't know if anyone had any amendments or changes. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 9th.
Wagner moves to approve the minutes from June 9th.
Sorry, thank you.
Stork seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, we've got some commission discussion items. The first is 724 Ronald Street. This is a property that the city purchased, I think maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Thank you, Jessica. The commission, I think maybe my first or second meeting, moved it from a contributing property to non-contributing. In December, the city staff determined that it needed to be demolished because it was not, I can't remember exactly what it was, but they notified us the day before our January meeting where we couldn't discuss it, but we did talk about it at our February meeting and kind of agreed that the building needed to come down. The city's owned the lot for 5 years. Shortly after it came down, I suggested to Jessica that we include it on a future, there was no city plans that we knew of, and included on an agenda that was light so we could talk about it. That was in June, I think, or maybe late May. I suggested we talk about it this month. Since then, there was a proposal that the city council approved on Tuesday, and I think I had written them and said, hey, just so you know, we're set to talk about this 2 nights from now. Would love to share some commission thoughts. But they decided to move forward, but wanted, I think, front-end approval, or front-end feedback from our commission and the Northside neighbors on the project. So there was a memo in the packet about it. I think we've got some folks here tonight that may want to talk about it. I see a head nodding. So we'll let them do that, and then maybe we can talk about what, the final review will come back to, whatever's proposed will come back to us for review, but since the city owns the lot and is going to sell the lot, probably they've already prepped it and will sell it, I think there's an opportunity for us to add something to the agreement, the sales agreement, or suggest to the city that they consider that. So that's kind of what we're discussing, anything that we want to make sure, feedback that's provided on the front end that goes to the city leadership as they move forward with this project that was just approved on Tuesday. So that's kind of our role on this particular item. So with that, why don't we have, if any members of the public are here to speak?
Evening, thank you.
Just sign in, Simon, please.
Oh, yes, of course. Appreciate your time this evening. My name is Simon Andrew. I am the Executive Director for the Housing Fellowship. We are a nonprofit rental housing provider throughout Johnson County. We have 209 units throughout the county, mostly within the city of Iowa City, mostly single-family homes, townhomes, duplexes, 2 apartment buildings. We're very excited to be a part of this project, this nascent project. The proposal is that the Iowa City School District, in resuming their student-built project, would work with the Home Builders Association to construct a home on the this lot that would then be used for affordable housing. The goal is for a net zero design on this lot, and we are very excited to be part of this project. So it is extremely important to the Housing Fellowship to be able to complete our mission that we are well liked by neighbors, that we're supported by the neighborhood, supported by the community. So we very much look forward to working with the commission on the design of the home. The home has not been designed yet. Design work would start after we close on the property. So we very much look forward to working with you on that. And again, it's absolutely critical to our mission that we have the community support. You know, the organization's been around about 30 years, and initially there was a lot of pushback in the community about affordable housing. You know, the classic NIMBY arguments would frequently carry the day when we were trying to approach a project or acquire a home or acquire a lot. I really feel like our community's made a big change in the last decade plus in that regard. I feel like we have a lot more public support, and I like to think that that's largely because of the way that we do work with neighborhoods and are good stewards of our homes, are good landlords for our tenants. So again, just wanted to introduce myself and express our eagerness to work with you to make sure that whatever is designed and built here is a positive for the community. What we're hoping for is a 3 to 5 bedroom home on the site. You know, we've acquired 45 units in the last couple of years, but those were all 1 and 2 bedroom units. The families that we're having the hardest time serving right now are those with children in the home. So that's what we're looking for, and again, look forward to working with you on it. So thank you for your time tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
I don't know if folks have any. I think that's great. I'm excited. You know, as much as I was disappointed about how the city approached the project, I'm very excited about what I think the end results are going to be. And you know, I think as I've talked to, I live in the Northside neighborhood. As I've talked to neighbors, I think the hope for this site was to make sure that there was an affordable housing element from the beginning. And I think when we started hearing that there was a project being developed without much neighborhood buy-in, there was concern that it may not. So I think I'm excited about where we're going to end up, despite how I think the city leadership staff handled it. But that's not your problem. That's someone else's. So appreciate it very much.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Hi there, my name is GT Carr, resident in Iowa City, but I'm representing the Vocational Training Council. I will sign in, thank you.
Thank you.
I promise I will. It's been a long day, apologies. I just wanted to mention, I think, 2 important things. The plan here, as our Vocational Training Council arm of the Home Builders Association, I will be actively managing this as the GC, is to deliver something that all of us as residents of Iowa City are proud of. You have my assurance in that. I have spoken to Jessica in the past that you know, this was a dream, and if this project would come together, one of the first things we would do would be going to her desk with preliminary plans when we get to that point, because I want the input. There's obviously guidelines that are gonna drive us a lot anyway, but we've got a good challenge ahead of us with student workforce development labor, resurrecting that program on an infill site with neighbors. We know all of this with the historic preservation, and if that wasn't enough, our goal's net zero. So we want to deliver something that the entire community is proud of, and you have my assurance of that. So I just want to thank you for your time and look forward to working with you in the future.
I can probably add a couple things.
Yeah, that'd be great, Jessica.
I do want to say, GT, that using salvage materials helps get you a long ways towards net zero.
We're going to need all the help we can get. So that's hopefully the architect's going to help me with that, but yeah.
So I don't know a lot of the details, but I do know that one component of the project will be that there will be a good neighbor meeting. Good neighbor meetings happen a lot in planning for subdivisions and stuff like that, when they basically have kind of worked out some of the details of the subdivision, and then they take that to the neighborhood to talk about what they're planning to do. It's not like a pre-design meeting. It's basically, you know, they kind of know, but the community can reach out with comments like, oh, well, what about a trail from here to here? Because we all do this. You know, it's a place where some of those fine-tuning things and things that really impact the community around can kind of be commented on, and the community can actually react to something that they've produced. And to my knowledge, at least what I've been told, this project, even though it's not required for this type of a project, they will have a good neighbor meeting, partly to be able to get that community feedback and stuff like that. I'm assuming, based on what a good neighbor meeting is, that it'll be sometime after they have done some design, but it will also be before the project comes to the commission for review. In our normal way of working through a new construction, they do work with me first. I help them work through what the guidelines are, talking about styles of architecture that fit the neighborhood and stuff like that. And then when we have something that we think we can get approved by the commission or approved with exceptions and stuff, then we bring it to the commission for review. So there will be that extra time of the good neighbor meeting when everybody will be able to have a better idea of what's going on.
What the good neighbor meeting, I think, is a result of the city council saying we need to make sure there's public input.
I believe so.
As well. I watched the work session. It seemed to be
okay.
the result of that. And then I think kind of our feedback tonight is an opportunity to weigh in on conceptually. We need to be very careful. I was just thinking of this too, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a good neighbor meeting that is presenting a design before we voted on it, if any of us attend, we should not say anything because we need to wait. And so we've seen all the material before we make judgments on something that we're going to review. So just a reminder I know there's a few of us that live in the neighborhood or nearby. But I think what we can talk about tonight is things we want to, kind of expectations we have. That's broadly, I think, is kind of what our role is tonight. That we could either suggest or we could ask, recommend to the city that they include in the purchase agreement or anything like that. So.
So I just had a question just about the
Yeah.
logistics of it. So the city currently owns the property,
Yes.
and then they will sell it to you. And tell me again who you're with or who you represent.
The Housing Fellowship, for about 30 years, it was directed by Mary Ann Dennis. If you're familiar with that name, that's usually how people knew us. But
Okay.
we're a nonprofit rental housing owner-manager. Again, 209 properties. We are a federally designated community housing development organization. We go through a number of processes for that, vetting for that designation, which does open up some federal funds too. The exact terms of the affordability would be kind of hashed out once we get a little bit more into design and know what the cost of the house will be. So we would be acquiring the lot, which would give once we have control of the lot, then design can start. And that's when we can start investing in that project. If this isn't going to be a lot that would work, if this wasn't going to be a lot that worked for that, then we'd have to shop around elsewhere and try and find one. So the city will convey the lot to us and then, start on the design process after that.
And do any of your the individuals who rent is it ever rent to own ever, or is that an
We
option?
have sold properties too. We have done some home ownership programs. That's usually where we own the land and then we're the continuing landowner and do a land lease to the homeowner. That's usually to access some federal funds that wouldn't be available otherwise if the home buyer didn't have an income that would support the underwriting for a loan the size. We would retain ownership of the land, and then we can more easily enforce the affordability on those. In my time with the organization the last couple of years, my take on that is that's a better suited program for Habitat for Humanity, that their wheelhouse is more home ownership programs and ours is more rental. We are working on a number of partnerships with them in which we either trade property or we're buying a house from them next month as well, one that was above a price range that they could get under affordability for a homeowner. So we will use that as a rental. On the flip side, we'll have properties that maybe need some rehabilitation work that we don't have funding for in the near term. It's a good option for home ownership. They can access their volunteer workers to do the rehabilitation, and then it becomes a home ownership program. So yeah, we do have a strong relationship with them. I think that it's best suited for us to stay in the rental housing world and try and facilitate them handling the affordable home ownership piece. One of the stories I like to tell recently, it was just one of our recent tenants that moved out. The family had started at Shelter House probably 10 or 15 years ago. The Shelter House referred them to us. They lived with us for a number of years as they were able to stabilize their finances. They just recently purchased a house through a Habitat for Humanity program. So they went all through our nonprofit housing providers in the community, and it's the exact example of how we want to see things done. And I guess while I'm on the topic of partnerships, we have had a number during the pandemic that we're quite proud of. This is probably not exactly germane, but I like to point it out. Early on in the pandemic, as the Domestic Violence Intervention Program was trying to reduce the numbers in their shelter, we were able to use a number of our properties for their shelter clients to move out of that shelter. We did that free of charge. Recently, when Shelter House had one of their facilities burned down, we were able to provide them one of our homes for a year. That one did have a rental rate, but it was supported by the tenant's previous income for their rent, but they were able to use that for a year as they reconstructed their Fairweather Lodge. So yeah, we like to think of ourselves as part of a broader system, and ours is that kind of lower to moderate income rental piece, if that makes sense.
Other thoughts? I have just one, but I want to wait till other folks have a chance. I think for me, I think this is, although not what we were told was going to happen when we moved it from historic to, or contributing to non-contributing, I do think it's a good outcome that's going to move forward. But I do want to just, as we think about our design guidelines, we've got several that are recommended or encouraged, and then some that are disallowed, right? I think we should really try to make sure that and we sometimes make exceptions, and I'd really like to try to, for the city to own this lot and then sell it probably at, I'm assuming, some kind of discount. They've already prepped it to try to minimize those exceptions in the design. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. The way that when people come with applications, they can come with exceptions for different reasons, and I'd like to try to minimize those except for the needs for the lot. That's kind of my thought about it.
Since it is like non-contributing now, what is the level of jurisdiction do we have over those guidelines?
Oh, anything that's built, we will approve what the design that comes back, and have to vote on it. My preference is the design that comes back minimizes those exceptions that they're asking for.
We do have design guidelines for new construction in a district, and then there are some exceptions that would only work in a conservation district. This is a historic district.
Okay.
I believe that there are some exceptions in the guidelines for a historic district. And that's what you're talking about.
Yes. Unless the lot requires them, right? I mean, it's a kind of a odd, it's a very sloped lot, there may be some needs to that.
And when I was reading some of the notes too, I noticed at one time they had talked about the possibility of 2 houses, but it's going to be 1 3 to 5 bedroom. Is that correct?
That would be the initial program, the initial plan. We need to look at the lot. There is the potential. It is big enough that it could be subdivided into 2 lots. So ideally, this could be a challenge and it might not be possible. There's a private sewer easement through the lot that is cost prohibitive to relocate. When the city was initially looking at plans 6 years ago, when it was more the missing middle housing design, they found that relocating that sewer was going to be cost prohibitive. So we're going to have to design around that, but it is deep enough with enough area that you could potentially divide it lengthwise down the middle and have 2 neighboring lots. If there was a second project next door, it would likely have to be much smaller. I'm not sure that both would fit on there, but until we start getting into design, we won't know that for sure. Right now, the only discussion is, yes, one house, but hopefully, the dream is that the following year we could potentially do another student-built project if all the partners were willing and able to. That would be our preference, but that remains to be seen. But yes, you are right that there could be 2 houses total if that is able to be subdivided.
But you did say that 2 to 3 bedroom homes, that those are kind of scarce right now, and you could really use that
Yep.
in your program.
Yep, and that's the hardest thing for us to do is turning away families when they come in with children in the home. That's really our wheelhouse. We have a number of families that have lived in our homes for a decade, 15 years plus. Their children have gone all through the schools with their neighboring kids, and that's really what we're best at. Our acquisitions, again, in the last couple of years, it was 45 units, but they were all 1 and 2 bedroom apartments that tend to be more younger professionals, retirees, fewer children in the home. So we really would love to serve those families that we're unable to right now.
I brought this up just so you can see that at least across the street, the lot sizes, well, and except for this one, tend to be the size of the original lots. And so you can see that that lot is also that size. It's 80 feet wide, and our zoning code requires a lot to be, I believe, 40 feet wide. So it could be divided. And frankly, any owner could divide it and sell off a half of it. That's possible really anywhere like that, as long as the new lot meets the code.
Right, but if the city were selling this to a private developer, the city could say it's got to be,
Yes, they could.
any seller can add.
They can put any requirements they
We're-
want.
I don't think that's what anyone's suggesting, but that,
And back to your point, Kevin, about you'd like to try to minimize the exceptions on this project. Are you saying that because it's new construction, and so why not
Yeah.
try to minimize those exceptions?
That-
Is that your
yeah,
thinking?
That, and that the city has done a lot of work already, and so we should make sure that we're achieving all our goals.
Got it.
It seems like you could start from a place of not making exceptions.
I agree.
Other thoughts about that? Do we have a majority of folks who feel like we should ask? We're just like setting expectations that no one has to actually. I don't think anyone's. I think just saying this is what we expect.
Can I ask, has this ever been done in like a neighborhood that's established, like, the North Side is incredibly an old neighborhood, it's a historic district. Has this ever been done in a different neighborhood?
I couldn't guarantee new construction in a historic district. We do have homes that are in historic districts, so we do have some experience with doing rehab work. We have done infill development for single-family homes, but again, I can't promise that that was in a historic district. And other times, if it's a tax credit project or something like that, we'll build a whole block of homes all at once. There are a couple of neighborhoods in town that were built by us with a tax credit project that are maybe an infill site within a neighborhood, but it would be a much larger site than a single-family lot. But yes, we have done infill in the past.
It's super exciting, I think. I think it has the potential to be a real example for the city. I like the idea that there's going to be a neighborhood meeting, the good neighbor meeting. I think that's a great idea because there'll be questions and things like that. But I think excited to see it. Excited to see how, and just like you said, have expectations. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it all goes.
Sounds good. I just want to make sure that we've got a majority of the commission that feels.
Yeah.
I'm seeing. I got at least okay. Just some guidance for you as you talk to folks. All right, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of you in the coming months around this. So thank you. All right, we're on to the new commissioner welcome portion. I thought it would be helpful for all of us to just introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm Kevin Boyd. I'm the current chair, and I've been on the commission. I think for 6 years. I think
Yeah, you started a year before your first real term, I think.
Yeah, it's like 6 years like right now. And I'm an at-large representative, but I live in the, at the very, where the Brown Street Historic District, kind of the lowest, the farthest south part of it on North Van Buren Street. So, and really interested, grew up in Iowa City, very, care deeply about Iowa City history. It's a kind of a hobby of mine, so. Maybe we could just start, like, do you want to mind
Sure.
just introducing yourself, and we'll just kind of go down and introduce ourselves a little bit.
Carl Brown, I'm here with the Longfellow District. Remembering now, I used to live in the South Governor Street area also, so I've appreciated what the commission does and what it tries to do and what homeowners do when they think about things in the way that we encourage them to think. So I've been on the commission, I think, for 2 years. This is either my second or third year. I think it might be my third year. Anyways, welcome to all the new commissioners.
I'm Nicole Villanueva. I'm from Summit Street. My husband and I came here in undergrad and have never left Iowa City, and I've grown to really love this town. And we've always dreamed of living in a historic district. So when we got to buy a house on Summit and finding out about this commission, I thought it was a really great way to get involved with the community and learn a lot more about Iowa City and the history of Iowa City. So I'm really excited to be here. So,
Welcome.
thank you.
Frank Wagner, a native of Iowa City. Grew up on Woodlawn. My parents still live on Woodlawn, second house on the right. And I'm a contractor and pretty much only do work on old buildings. Built after 1930, I'm not interested. And got lots of projects like that going on now.
Keeping busy.
Yes.
And I'm Deanna Thoman, and I represent the North Side. And I've lived in an old house there for about 20 years now. My sister and I bought it when we started college, and it was my great-great-grandparents' home. And that's what really got me interested in working with this commission. And got to see my house become a contributing house, too, and a historic district, and the work that was put into that. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you're here, too.
I'm Noah Stork, and I represent the College Green District. I live in a house right in the corner called Johnson, and a lot of foot traffic, and it's fun to interact with the public in that way. Definitely, I am kind of newer to the commission, so I'm still trying to fill that out. But as a homeowner in a historic district, there's these guidelines we have to follow. So just wanting to be a part of that and learn more about the interaction with the public that wants to do same things to their house. And so welcome to the new commissioners.
So I'm Christina Reynolds, and okay, we bought the Thoman house. You didn't grow up on Brown Street, did you? No, it's a different Thoman.
And it's a
'cause they
different,
had like 8 kids.
It's a different family,
Different
too.
Thoman family,
Well,
okay.
different last name.
Okay.
The Thoman name goes with someplace south of here, near Riverside, but I think
Okay.
there's probably a connection.
Probably,
Interesting.
yeah. I teach over at City High, and this is we're in the 3rd house we've renovated in Iowa City, and hopefully the last one. It's been a lot of work, but yeah, I'm excited to be on the commission, and I also coach. So I told Jessica there might be a couple of times in the fall and the spring that I'll be going for cross country and track meets, but hopefully not too much. So you still have a forum. I was worried about that.
Yeah, and I'm Kevin Larson. I'm in the Woodlawn District. I'm probably the only renter on the commission. I'm a master's student at the University in Urban Planning. I was an architect before I started my master's degree. So I have an interest in the architecture side of things, and I have interest in just, learning about what's going on in planning and what's going on in the city. So it's been a good learning experience for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're welcome. Glad to have you. We got a couple other commissioners who are not here tonight. I think they're on vacation this week.
Traveling.
What's that? Traveling, yeah. So up next is our Historic Preservation Awards. We have annual preservation awards that we give out. We had a subcommittee. Jessica, am I stealing what you're going to say?
No, I'm not. I don't
Okay,
need to speak.
we had a subcommittee meeting a little while ago to kind of nominate stuff, and tonight is the commission votes on them. And then we'll work on getting some information and putting together the awards ceremony.
Yeah, so what we'll do today is I'll go through quickly the awardees that the subcommittee picked, and I need you guys to vote to approve them officially. But we won't keep this in the minutes or anything, so if you remember that if you want to say something, that we are recorded, just so that's out there. But I'm not going to put it in the minutes specifically, but if somebody wants to be watching on YouTube, they can. But anyway, we'll have the awards in September, and I'm hoping that I can get a lot of the commission to help, and we can talk about that some other day. Oh, wrong one. I'm sorry. I have two here. Okay, so we usually use some specific categories, and we've mostly stuck to that this time. These are the 2021 awards because that year is the year that has been completed. In residential paint and exterior finishes, we have 811 Brown Street that has been painted, and this was nominated by the owner. And I believe that the roof was painted. I don't have a photo of it there, but it was, you know, had some rot and stuff before. But most of the time when the owner nominates, we want to award that. This is a feel-good thing, not a judgy thing. 1802 College Street, this was nominated actually by me. It is up near City High. I don't know if it's just a paint or a rehab, because I think that they just painted their aluminum siding, but it still looks so much better than the all white, and so that's why they are nominated. 1168 Court Street has been painted. We knew it was being painted, and this is the final version. 528 Iowa Avenue. I think this one was also nominated by the owner. Of the yellow houses, it's the best. 606 South Johnson was nominated by a ton of people. This is a house that we would love to have as a local landmark. It's a Mcconnell Bristol house. It is brick that has been painted. And so similar to the house up on Summit and Burlington, the suggestion was to paint it a brick color. It's always going to be painted, so might as well make it look more like the brick. And so this is the spectacular after. I don't know if they've done other rehab work. They might have, but we don't know that.
This is one of like 6 pre-1890 buildings that isn't landmarked or in a historic district in Iowa City. So there's only a handful of pre-1900 buildings that aren't
In brick.
landmarked. What's that?
In brick.
And brick?
In brick.
In brick.
Because
No.
there are some other pre-1890s houses that are,
There's not many. Well, maybe I have the year wrong. Maybe it's like 1860. or
yeah,
something.
1860.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
that
Sorry.
might be gone.
Really.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in the category of residential rehabilitation, this is a limited scope project. It is the porch reconstruction. We started with an original roof and other stuff, and now we have the original roof and more columns that more fit that and work better with it. This house obviously has 3 layers of asphalt shingle siding on it. It is a rental property, and we hope that the owners are encouraged to continue their work. Oh, because I think it's also a giant Prairie School stucco house. I think it's probably fantastic. It was always an apartment. It was built that way. 12 Bella Vista Place. This is the pink one on the very end of Bella Vista Place, and the roof was damaged in the derecho and was entirely replaced with brand new terracotta tile flown in from Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's for sale.
It is for sale.
It is.
Oh, well.
We can still give them an award.
Yeah, we
Oh,
can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
The
it was.
former Iowa Attorney General's home, by the way.
They also had to reconstruct a very interesting internal gutter system. It was just a huge project. We better contact them right away. 1519 Center, simple pointing of masonry, replacing the cap, nominated by the owner because they were so impressed with the mason. I mean, he called me 3 times to make sure they were nominated. Now, when we're talking about masonry pointing, it's not going to be the most spectacular before and after photos, because the point is that we don't want to be able to see it unless, it looked really bad originally. So it's not going to be the most spectacular, but it is excellent work. 516 Fairchild. This was a house that went through the university partnership program and had a whole bunch of mess. It was really bad. When it was sold to the new owner, it's still original house, 1-story addition, separate garage added onto, and a lot of weird apartment living space in this bay. Anyway, the new owner decided all of that was crazy and made it into a garage again with no apartment and fixed the entry. This is probably the most striking of the rehabilitations that we have here, because former rental house, lots of metal siding, removed it, repaired it all, and it looks like this. I think they're considering rebuilding the wraparound porch. It wrapped around the front here. Just a young couple who owns it and have done a spectacular job. Another one, 810 Roosevelt Street. This house had metal siding, and the derecho ripped off a little siding, and the owner couldn't take it. And she started continuing on. This house was so spectacular when the metal siding was removed that we now think it's like 40 years older than it was before. I mean, everything about this entry right here says 1930s. And all of the details and forms basically say 1880s. So the owner has gotten interested in researching the history of the house as well, and so she's done a little bit of that. It was painted. There were some details in these pedimented window hoods, and she had them remade and everything. We could tell because they had been ripped off and there was the ghost of paint. It was pretty spectacular. There are some additions. This house did have a front porch, and it doesn't have it and probably won't ever. But commercial rehabilitation, we have one. Union Brewery is a National Register and local landmark, and they did an amazing amount of work repairing all of this extensive Italianate crown. They worked on like the base of the column. They replaced the modern door area. They worked on the wood paneling below windows. They just did an extensive amount of work, and it looks great. This is one of the during photos. New addition, we have this garage. It was built by Frank, so you could, he can step out if you need to say bad things, but it is a new garage, and the owners are hopefully going to be encouraged to also remove their metal siding on their house. This was the before garage. And we have 2 potential stewardship awards. First of all, Gregory Seelick lived in and remodeled and worked on this house for many years, and he passed away last fall. And the committee would like to give him a posthumous stewardship award. And for this one, really we'll have to approach the family and see how they feel about that and everything. So we'll see how that goes. And then we were also interested in giving a stewardship award to Public Space One, who now owns 3 of our local landmarks. They have done projects to rehabilitate windows and other things. They built, most recently, the accessibility ramp on the back of the Close Mansion. And their goal is really to make these historic properties, especially one that is as grand as the Close Mansion, accessible to everyday people, something that it will be unique in its history, really. I guess it was a Johnson County building for a while, so people would have gone into it at that point in time. But they do want to make it so that the public can come in and use the building, and the two that they have on Gilbert Street, on North Gilbert. And that's it. So if you have any questions, ask. If you have any comments about anything, if you think something shouldn't be awarded, we should, talk about it now. Otherwise, I would just entertain a motion to accept the nominees as presented or something like that.
This is Thoman, and I would like to motion to, are we voting on these tonight?
You would vote, you would get a group that you would approve and then vote to approve the entire group. So if there's something that you wanted to remove, you would do that.
Okay. I'd like to present a motion to decide on a group for the Historic Preservation Awards. Is that okay?
I think we should just, maybe move to approve the awards as presented.
Okay.
Is that?
Yes. So Thoman has a motion to move to approve the awards as presented.
Brown, second.
Any discussion about the actual awards? Kind of we have a motion on the table. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then the election of officers. We do this every June after we get new commissioners. I am the current chair and have 1 year left, so I'm happy to serve as chair for at least for that long. But I'm also happy
But
to.
are there any other nominations?
But if there are other nominations, I am happy to just be a commissioner.
I'm in favor of you staying as commissioner.
And then we also have a vice chair. Jordan Sellergren is our current vice chair. She's not here tonight.
And she did not speak to me about how she feels about that, so I have no knowledge.
So
Is she on for another year?
She is.
she just
Okay.
got reappointed for another 3-year term.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
So I guess I don't know what, we could just, well, we could do it one of two ways. We could just move forward with the chair, figure out the vice chair next time, unless there's someone who wants to nominate themselves to be vice chair, and then we could just vote that. It's up to you guys. It's your group.
So we can't just nominate Jordan in her absence, is what
I
you're saying?
mean, we can. Okay, if you want to do that, then I would just verbally give her the ability to say she doesn't want to accept it, and then we could.
Yeah, if she declines, then we'll just vote on it and find another vice chair at the next meeting.
That could work.
I just like, for efficiency, that seems like.
Yeah.
Is that a motion we need then?
Someone need to move to approve, I think, both.
So I would move to approve Kevin Boyd as chair for next year and Jordan Sellergren as vice chair, unless she lets us know that she is not in favor of continuing as vice chair.
Wagner, second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. I've got 12 more of these with you guys.
And I only have one other thing. So, our senior planner gave me this because she thinks it's super amazing. A former commissioner, Doug Russell, had purchased this at auction, I believe, and then donated it back. What it is a handwritten award that the Preservation Commission gave to Irving Weber in 1985.
Oh, that's awesome.
So now it hangs on the wall in our department. And it is they're just presenting the 1985 Preservation Week Award to Irving Weber.
That's awesome.
He wrote a lot
Oh, yeah?
of history.
That's awesome.
Do you know who did the calligraphy?
No, I
Writing.
don't. Margaret Novich, who is the chair at the time, we actually have a special award named for her that we could award to a preservationist or a preservation activist or something. We only do that when it comes up, but so in a way, we're capturing that little bit of importance of the history as a group as well.
That's awesome. I didn't know what that agenda item was, but I saw that last time we were in the office. and
Yeah.
Thought it might be this.
Yeah, in fact, Anne said, did they see the award on the wall? And I'm like, oh, I forgot it was there.
If Jenna Lee would know who drew that, or, was that calligrapher.
It's before Ginny was on the commission.
My mom was on that commission, but I don't know if she would remember.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Well, the only thing left is adjournment. So we need a motion to adjourn. Do one of the new people want to do it?
I don't even.
I'll just say I move to adjourn. That's it.
Villanueva moves to adjourn.
Reynolds seconds the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.